G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Kenty, it's Thursday. Today's the last day of work for you.
Yeah, I know. It's time to start the 3-day weekend was. So
Very good, very
as
good.
I'm out of here, I'm going to start that, which means I might give myself a gay time ice cream or something on the way home.
Okay. Well, you walk home from here.
I walk home, yeah.
So if anybody sees you over the Anzac Bridge, make sure you do your horn.
Oh, I got a few hellos.
No, none of those, please. As you go.
Don't get many of those, but that's good.
Mate, yesterday, what an episode. The great Ben joined us in the in the Blitz studios. It was great to see him again, obviously, for you.
Yeah, look. The thing is, look, to be fair, like his life's gone one way the last couple of years. Mine's gone the complete opposite. Okay, but we've been friends since when we first started 360. We didn't know each other.
Yeah, when was that?
Well.
How long ago was that?
2013. Wow. So we knew each other. Like we'd say hello to each other, but we weren't friends by any measure. And we sort of got thrown into the show, and we were the redheaded stepchild at Fox at the time. The Matty show was the big show. Peter Sterling had a show there. That was a big show. And almost because they had to start this other show called 360. And we were thrown into that. We didn't get a lot of love early on. But over the years, the show built up and got an audience. And him and I have become very good friends out of it. And even in the past couple of years where our lives have gone in different directions,
you still talk a lot.
Still talk a lot.
Awesome.
We still talk. I don't know, once, twice a week. And just chat. It's not work sort of chat anymore. But it's just we just talk about things. And he's as solid as a rock. He's just one of the great blokes in rugby league. To be fair,
well, he's obviously a very successful administrator now. What makes him such a good administrator?
Oh, look, we used to always sort of ride him about this at 360 because he used to love when we did the show. Whenever there's like a boardroom situation or scenario that we had to talk through, he just got off on that.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Like we're all more into the playing side of things and a bit of the scandal side of things. But when it became to your due diligence and just the business side of it all, that's what really took his interest. And we used to have to pull him back from it all the time, to be fair. But I knew he'd be successful. He's a man of high integrity, and he's which is uncommon, to be fair, in the roles that he's been in, to the degree that he's got it anyway. And he's intelligent. He works hard. He lives clean. He just he hasn't had sugar for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, wow. He looks thin.
Oh, look, when you see what he was like at 18, when he was 18, he went into Origin camp and he would drink and party the whole time in Origin camp. So by the time he got in to game 3, he put his shorts on and his legs were like those sausages that sort of they bursted out of the bottom of his shorts. They were that tight. He put on that much weight, but he doesn't do that now. He very rarely drinks. He sits there, never eats sugar. During COVID, I remember we had him sitting in a hotel room and he stayed down here the whole period for COVID, but he was bored. He used to come over to my place a lot. We'd sit and watch footy together and one day he came over, he said, "Mate, I'm desperate for a home-cooked meal. Can I cook some dinner?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I was there, myself and my daughter were there, and he cooked up this pasta that he'd been telling us about all week. Mm-hmm. And he cooked it up, and we sat down to eat it, and my daughter and I sort of gave each other a look like, is this it? Like it was basically, he basically cooked pasta and sprinkled a little bit of like garnish. Yeah, and that was it. That was that. But he just devoured it. He was so happy to be able to sit there and cook his pasta.
Awesome.
But yeah, so, and look, like I said, a couple of years ago when Broncos made the grand final, he stayed at my place. He stays at my place occasionally, so when he comes down to Sydney, so.
Yeah, it was great to have him in the studios. I mean, obviously, all the staff here were buzzing about it. So thanks very much for coming in, Ben. We might try and get you back later on the year. I know all the punters think he's going to give up his job as a CEO of Queensland Rugby League, but rest assured, I don't think he will to come in here.
I'll advise him it's not good to be broke.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Mate, big news out of Perth with just breaking this afternoon with the new CEO being appointed, yes. Anthony Ceglie, I think that's
Ceglie, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I've never heard of him, actually. Coming from the industry now, obviously he's on the opposite side of the country to me, and he operated at a level, at a corporate level that I never was part of. And very interesting, Warren, that it's come on a week after the Bears were announced where they had that disgusting front page of Bad News Bears, where they were actively hostile, and to the point, which was the really disappointing part about that, was they actually printed wrong facts in that story, which were emotive facts, and I think designed to put Perth and Western Australian people in uproar. With the wrong facts, that they were going to have to pay taxpayer money, $65 million a year to fund the Bears, which is complete bullshit.
So he's the CEO for Kenty Woz.
He was head of news, I understood. Head of news. So editor-in-chief. He was editor-in-chief and all that. So he's had, I don't know what his current role is. I think he's head of news over there now, and he's taken the CEO role of the Perth Bears. First when I saw it, I thought maybe he's coming in as a chairman, bit of a figurehead, but the CEO role. So it's going to be very different for him. I've said this before. It's one thing to know your sports, one thing to know rugby league, which he doesn't. Okay,
he does know Perth though. He does know WA.
He does know Perth.
Local
that
guy.
Could help him.
Very different over there. Very different over there.
Well, it's just a big country town.
Yeah,
it really is. But I kind of like the fact he's just not a footy fan. So look, let's see how he goes. But
what do you think it says about the ARL Commission with that appointment?
I think it's
got their hands all over it, obviously.
Yeah, I think it shows that they are looking to attack this from I'll use a corporate governance type sort of scenario where they're trying to get all that the business of it all set up correctly first, as opposed to the footy team. Now, I think that's a square peg for a square hole, putting him in there. I like the idea. He knows the movers and shakers. He'll have some influence over the media coverage over there, which I think only through his relationships. And they need someone there with strong relationships who's going to be able to sit down with politicians, which he'll know in his role currently. He'll sit down with the big chiefs in the media, which he will know. So all that will be in place. So I think from that point of view, it's a pretty smart choice, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it looks like they're getting close now with their coach. Steve Crawley, who's a mate of yours, and from your old haunt, has put his approval for Meninga to be the coach. It was interesting, his comments, saying, look, he doesn't advise the ARL Commission, but he thinks Mel would be a great acquisition for the club. Yeah,
look, I think it's a lay down misère now that
What about Brad Arthur, Sam Burgess, no chance?
No, they've been thrown up. I think now that this has happened, so if you reverse engineer this, Mel was a shock out of left field, okay? But then you look at it, and it's very much a identical situation, identical strategy, I would say, as to when the AFL moved to Sydney with GWS, and they put Kevin Sheedy in as their coach. Sheedy was a legend in the game. He had a big voice. He had the ability to cut through the rugby league media here and get coverage, because Sheedy was just so fascinating a person that if you had an interview with him, it was worth selling. It was worth getting out there, letting everybody know, and even league people understood that. And I think it'll be a similar philosophy with Mal over there. That will be a situation where Mal will go over there. He'll have an immediate standing within the community. He won't have to be judged through the team's performance. Mal will go over there almost as his own little entity.
Build the culture of the club.
And well, that's the other part. From a footy point of view, look, Mal's, to be fair, still to be tested as a NRL coach,
day-to-day coach, right?
Yeah, look, he had a stint there at the Raiders, and he wasn't particularly successful. And once he got out of there, it looked like he was never going to go back. But what he will do over there is he'll put the right culture in place. And one thing I do know about Mal, and we've all seen it now with what he's done with Origin. But I go back. I remember talking to Bob Fulton when the Kangaroos in '94 were about to go away, and he said to me, Mal Meninga went on that 1994 Kangaroo Tour, and he set 2 records there. He became the only player to ever go on 4 Kangaroo Tours, and he became the only player to ever captain 2 Kangaroo Tours. And to be fair, it was Mal's last year, and Mal was not the player he used to be, okay? And years later, and I'm talking only 5-6 years ago, I was talking to Bob Fulton about that, who was the coach, and he said, mate, look, to be fair, he said, look, I didn't need Mal the player on that tour. He said there were probably blokes going better in the centres at the time, blokes that you would have put in the team at the time. He said, but Mal's such a great captain. He said it was always his job. And they went away on that tour, and yeah, I'll tell you a story. Actually, I shouldn't say this, but bugger it. I actually don't know if I should say it.
Yeah, no, do it. Come on.
All right.
It's only we're a few friends here.
Just friends. Yeah, we'll keep it amongst ourselves.
Just between us, guys.
But one of the players came back to the pub one day, and he had blood on his shirt. Mal said, "What's happened to you?" And he said, "Oh, he'd been seeing this girl, and he was down another pub talking to this girl. And anyway, her husband or boyfriend or whatever walked in. Okay, now this came as a shock to the player." But anyway, one thing led to another. They got into a bit of a set-to over it, which is why he had the blood on the shirt. So Mal sat there and nodded and put his schooner glass down, or pint glass, whatever they were drinking at the time, and just didn't say anything, but got up to go to the toilet. But he didn't actually go to the toilet. He went down the road, walked into the pub, and grabbed this bloke,
flogged him,
dragged him out and gave him a hiding.
Oh, God.
Right? And the lesson was, you don't touch one of my players.
Wow.
And, now, in the modern world, or people are going to shit their pants out there and say, look, you can't do that. But
times are different, right?
Well, times are different, but the respect he won among the playing group as the senior figure and the protector of that playing group, even though it was not necessary, it just showed what he felt about his team and how he protected his team, and that's why he was such a great leader, because they knew that Mal would do whatever was necessary to get it done. And look, that's an off the field story, but that was the same on the field.
It's about creating culture, right?
Well, it is. It's about creating that love and respect between teammates, and that's what he'll do if he gets the job at the Perth franchise. And I really think that it's all done now.
Not on the streets, right?
No. But it's the same mentality. Look, look, the actions now. If you did that today, trust me, I can tell you this: if you did that today, you'd be in all sorts of trouble. Okay, but the fact is, there used to be a time when that was, accepted, and I would say even within that playing group was admired by them. The way he looked after them, and I just think, when he goes to Perth, that the Bears will be in a good place from that point of view. He'll have to have some really good help around him. They have to. All the other things, recruitment, assistant coaches, all that is going to have to be spot on. But with this new CEO, that looks like a good appointment. I really think it's all over for Brad Arthur and Sam Burgess now. I don't think they'll get there. I don't think either would want to go there as an assistant coach. No. I don't think there'll be a Wayne. Some people will propose whether there's a Wayne Bennett type plan. I don't think that'll be the situation either. I think Mal will go there with a good staff around him and will coach as long as he is successful there.
You know what I think's interesting about the whole Brad Arthur and Sam Burgess thing is, I foresee that this Perth and Papua New Guinea club are going to be filled with English players, right? Maybe Australians returning to play, and so you would think that Brad Arthur and Sam Burgess have some, they're both coaching in the Super League. They would have some kind of better understanding of the players. So I would have thought it makes sense. Clearly that doesn't. Clearly
it makes sense in a small way, Warren. But at the end of the day, we've all got phones now. You get on the phone to someone else over there who's value, who opinion you trust, and you say, what do you think? The problem that's going to be, it's interesting that the NRL is now looking at whether they should buy into Super League. With an extra, what did Ike say yesterday, 80 players that are going to have, they're going to have to be brought into the NRL system by the end of 27, start of 28, when the Papua New Guinea side come in. They will just shred the English Super League of talent. So I reckon the top right now, the English Super League, you could predictably say that probably the top 20 or 30 players won't be there in 5 years' time, 4 years' time. But they'll be playing in the NRL.
It was interesting,
the right age.
Because chiming in, I interviewed Steve Gillis, right, who's a player agent, and he was saying that the top salaries over in the UK, for the standard players, not for your prime players who they bring in, is only 150 to 200,000 pounds. So we're only talking 300 to 400, and in the NRL, that's a bottom salary.
Yeah, well, it's not it's
not the starting salary, but it's
an NRL starting player's bottom end of the salary. Yeah, it's not the top 30 bottom end, but it's if you're playing regular NRL every week and if you're not a big name, you're one of the lesser lights, you're probably earning that. But Warren, where do you get these extra players? Okay, that's what's going to be the problem. They're going to take some out of State Cup and the reserve grade squads now, but the only other players you can get beyond those who we have shown that they aren't good enough to get there. These guys now, the only other guys you can go to are really the English Super League players. So they will just be pillaged in the next few years.
Matt Duffy, Tex Hoy, Bevan, all those kind of players will be back. Yeah,
I don't know
individuals, but
they are. They're all going to. They're all going to be looked at, and all those good young English kids coming through will be lost to that competition,
particularly around the halves. Anyway, mate, on to the Origin. There's a few whispers that Laurie Daly's going to consider Turbo on the wing. What do you think of that?
It's going around the game. Yeah. It's look, the team's picked this weekend, so the good thing is we can next time we're on, the speculation will be over, and we'll be able to talk about the team.
You think players can play themselves in or out this weekend, or do you think it's done?
I think mostly it's done. There's a couple of players that probably Queensland players a little bit each way. I think Latrell Mitchell's already stated his case, but guys like, say, Talangi, Kurt Mann maybe plays his way in.
I just want to throw out, actually, there's a viewer called Bulldog Dynasty who, wrote a great comment on, on one of our episodes, and he was talking about Kurt Mann probably a week ago before anybody else was talking about it. So shout out to Bulldog Dynasty. Well done. What do you think of Kurt Mann, particularly
I think he's player? Yeah, look, he's a chance. It's going to be interesting because Hunt's not there. Dearden will probably go into he'll probably go into 14. So I think he's got the job. I think Mann will probably be in the squad somewhere like 19 or 20. I don't know if he'll get a jersey on game night, but he's just a footballer. He's one of those guys. He's got good sort of skills in the game. He's got a good understanding of the game.
Can play multiple positions. He's played pretty much every position.
And he's tough and he's a competitor. Yeah. So he's got Queenslander written all over him. So look, like I said, I don't know if he'll get a jersey, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him called into the squad to get a look at it. And if things go his way later in the series with injuries or suspensions, then certainly, he won't let anyone down, Warren.
He won't let anyone down. Mate, talking about Ben Hunt, obviously he's out for a number of weeks now, I think another 3 weeks, and that brings Ezra Ramon back straight in.
Yeah, and he comes into a Broncos team that's really out of sorts. I think he'll spark them a little bit in attack. They've probably got a little bit predictable, I suppose, in attack. They're a funny side, the Broncos. They're still going sideways rather than forward. All this shit fight that's going on there about whether they're training too hard now and... The blowback on Michael Maguire as coach, I find fascinating, given it's only 10 weeks into his coaching stint there. They're crying out for somebody to, much like Mal Meninga as a Kangaroos captain, somebody to step up and take some leadership and just try and get everybody in alignment. Again, we spoke yesterday about, we didn't quite do it this way, but the most successful clubs, there's an alignment between the coach, the captain, players, and then you go above that with the CEO and whatnot. Because whether they're right or wrong in what their philosophy is, if they're all going in the same direction, they're going to make some progress. It doesn't appear that the coach and some of those players are going in the same direction at the moment. Now, I've not spoken to any of the Broncos players who have said that there's an issue there. But that doesn't mean there's not, but that doesn't mean there is. So I don't quite know.
You know what changes that, Kenty? Winning. Once they start winning games,
of course it does.
It gets rid of all that bullshit in the background that everyone's trying to stir up,
That's true, but to start winning, they've got to be all sort of rowing in the same direction. And that's the issue. So I wondered whether last week that boat cruise was like an attempt to try and just relax everybody, get them all there. Elijah Taylor came out and gave him a spray, Michael Maguire, on social media. Take that for what you will. But one of the things he did have a shot at Maguire about was about how when he played under him at the Tigers, they would be warming up before a game and they were still sore from training. And that was a complaint that I did hear from South Sydney when he was coaching there at the time. So maybe that's just something to look at. Certainly I know... Players whinging can be a real cancer. And once they get in their little groups and they start to bitch and moan about this and that, it's very hard to turn around. Wayne Bennett, who's the greatest surviving coach of all time, or survival coach of all time, like Wayne was always very good. That once he found a little bit of a gossiper and a bit of a little
A
cancerous.
leak.
Yeah,
Leak.
just a bloke that was always bitching and moaning, and some guys bitch and moan, and then they'll get other guys in, and suddenly you look up and
Toxic.
you've got a group of 5 or 6 blokes there. It's very hard to get that back. Wayne Bennett was always very good. If he identified one of those guys, he just moved him out of the club. Yeah, and just there's no point keeping a guy around. If you've tried your best to get the guy going the same way as you, and they don't, get rid of them, because eventually they'll get enough on side that they'll get the numbers to go and topple you out. And that's an area that I think Michael Maguire is so intense. He's so into what he's doing. I think sometimes he just probably is not looking a little bit wider at the bigger picture where he might need to.
Well, that was, they say, the problem with Hook down at St George Illawarra. They were playing full contact at their captain's run, which seemed crazy at the time, and that's the news that coming out. Just on the Dragons, Broncos playing the Dragons this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the game. I think Man will come in. See, I feel sorry for the Dragons. I think 3 times this year, that they've been beaten by a field goal. Twice this year they've scored more tries and still lost the game than their opposition. But if Mam comes back and sort of gets that Bronco attack clicking, which he's every chance to do, I just don't know if Saints will have enough points in them. But interesting game. Like, they both, for different reasons, have got to go out and have a dig.
2:00 game on Sunday, so it'll be good weather for that, hopefully, and expansive footy. Just last thing on the Broncos, did you see the animal activist group PETA came out and said they want to get rid of the Broncos? I thought I'd just throw this in. It's Thursday. I want to see it fire up a little bit.
What a pack of dead shits! Like, seriously, Peter. Like, I wonder sometimes whether these people have ever actually been around a horse. Horses are running animals. You know what I mean? Like, just bugger. Like, they want to rename them the Brisbane Boomerangs. Yeah. Well, you know what? As soon as you do that, you'll get another activist group that are complaining about it. Like, honestly, just stay away. The horse gets out of the paddock. He goes to the ground. He does a lap when they score a try. The only time he's been in any stress is when they won 68-0 or something there one day. He ran 3 Melbourne Cups in an afternoon, poor old buck. But fact is, look, just go away. Like, honestly, like, if that's their issue, if that's what they're really concentrating on now, like, for all the good they do, geez, they undo it with some dumb ideas.
Yeah, well, we do some running the bulls to us at Spain, and we just get hammered on our socials.
Oh,
well, maybe a bit different. Maybe a bit different.
Save the lead there.
Anyway, mate, a little bit of news out of South that Bennett might be looking at a few big playmakers.
Yeah, look, it's going around. There's a whisper in the game. He's got a big front row or someone coming. And look, I've tried. I had a look at it. I got a bit of a tip that maybe Tavita Pangai. I don't think that's it now. He's over there playing for Catalans, I think, and going okay.
Probably enjoying the lifestyle over there too.
Well, yeah, but he's probably not what South need. The only other sort of big, he's not really playing middles at the moment, is whether you look at Fafita somewhere and things don't work out at the Titans. I don't know if that's going to eventuate. Titans are still talking like they can save Fafita, and the relationship between him and Des Hasler is still pretty good and can still work.
Plus, he's off for another 4 weeks, so he's not going to come good till mid-June. It has to be done before June 30th.
Well, I don't know if it's this year, but I don't know whether it's even going there.
Yeah.
But and there is a talk Taylor Mader's house as well, which that'd be interesting. And I think he'd actually do pretty well there under Wayne Bennett.
Mate, Dylan Brown this week comes up against his new club, or his next club, the Knights.
Next club, yeah.
Yeah, Para Knights. Friday night, sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game. It's going to be interesting to see how the Knights attack him, actually. But I'm wondering how the Knights are feeling about it, given Brown's comments last week when he was talking about playing the Dolphins, and he was talking about kick to the corners.
I got his comments. His comments was, it's so boring. This is about the game plan. It's so boring. It's kicking to the corners. It's the boring stuff, tackling over and over again.
Yeah. Now, if I'm the Knights, I'm concerned by that, because that's exactly what they need. For game controlling halfbacks, that's your bread and butter. That's often your game plan. Kick to the corners, make them work out. Get the ball back, kick to the corners, make them work it out. And if you do that well enough, teams can get frustrated with their lack of progress and will then begin to try something. They make a mistake. Suddenly you've got possession in good ball area. and that's when you can attack.
Mm.
The good halfbacks don't lose patience in that area. Nathan Cleary will kick to the corners all afternoon if it's working for him. He doesn't care how boring it is. You go back to Jason Taylor as a halfback was very good at it. Yeah,
Adam Reynolds, that's all.
Adam Reynolds is great at it.
Yep.
And that's what their team's often looking for. For Dylan Brown to be going to Newcastle now as their chief playmaker next season, as we're led to believe, and just complain about the game plan being boring, it suggests a player, which is what he is, a player who gets a little bit bored with that stuff and just goes looking for the big play, the classy play. Now, coming through his juniors, there's no doubt he was capable of pulling that out when he needed to. But when you get to NRL level, that's the elite level, and that can not always eventuate. So then what do? That's why these bread and butter plays are so important in your game. And it's got. Greg Alexander was stunned when he heard it, and I think a lot of people around the game all sort of looked at each other and thought, "Whoa, what's Newcastle getting here? Do they know what they're getting here?" Because that's not going to win games in Newcastle. They need a guy who can go there and do that bread and butter, ball in the corner, just repetition, just keep playing the smart play. The best thing you can have in your game right now is a halfback who recognises you're getting pumped from a momentum point of view, and just has the ability to whack a ball downfield, put it in a corner, you jam up, you have a good set of six, you put them under pressure, and that's how you win back momentum. Now, if your halfback's too bored doing that and he wants to start flipping out the back and bringing guys under him and looking to do little trick plays, that's not going to get you back in the game.
Yeah, okay. Well, Newcastle have one of those players who can do that. Big kicker, kick to the corners. Jackson Hastings.
We're not going to go there.
Mate, tonight's game, the second Origin game.
Yeah.
The women, who are you picking in that?
It's funny. I had lunch with Iken yesterday, and I said to him, mate, I think New South Wales is just going to pump your girls. And he's like, look, let's bear in mind everything he said yesterday was as the CEO of the Queensland Rugby League, okay? So let's just underline all these little comments about that. But he said to me, he goes, mate, it's Origin. And at first he said, why would you say that? I said, well, mate, defensively, New South Wales was so far superior in that first game. In the women's, they were so much better. And Queensland were just not at that level. And I think John Strange, the coach, I think he's had a big impact in that area. And I think the way he's taught them to defend and the way they were so aggressive and the team he picked to be able to play that style of footy, I think that was really good coaching. And Iken's view was, mate, it's Origin. That doesn't matter. You've just got to turn up and
aim up,
basically have a crack. Yeah. And that's to be fair, that's the Queensland. That's always been their mentality. They look at that in the men's game, the women's game. They don't care. But I tend to think that more so in the men's game, you can do that in Origin because the teams are so evenly balanced in reality. But I think the New South Wales women's team is a very, very good team. I think they'll win comfortably tonight.
Yeah. Mate, another cracking game, Roosters Dogs.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you one thing. Had Jacob Carraz and...
So your show, we got a show dropping tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
At 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we've done a little two-part special on that, Warren. Like, Canterbury 4 years ago finished last. They're now leading the competition. It's been a really dramatic turnaround in 4 seasons. So for Kenty Primetime, we've got Jacob Carraz came in, sits with us for an hour. Reid Marnie comes in, sits with us. And we just went through the whole Bulldogs transformation, how they turned it around, the culture within the club, what they try to do, the impact of Cameron Sorrello and what a terrific coach he is. And it's a 2-part special this week. So first part's out 7 p.m. on Thursday. The second part comes out 6 a.m. Friday, and they talk us through that. Obviously the ins and outs of the club a little bit as well, but. One of the things they did speak about was how they pride themselves on their starts, and they recently got smashed by Broncos in the first round and the first half, and then on the weekend smashed by the Raiders in the first half. Interesting little story without giving too much away was after they went into the halftime break against the Broncos, Sorrello, who's been trying to keep their heads level given their success, said, "Look, he said everyone's been pissing in your pocket. Let's go out and see how good you are now." which I thought was just great coaching.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he just called it on them. Just
Yeah.
go out.
He gets it, right? He gets it.
He does, and I think it was 18-0 second half to the Bulldogs. It didn't win the game clearly, but it gave them the belief to think they could beat the Raiders, which they came back and did.
Yeah, excellent. Well, they're up against the Roosters this weekend, who have been going very well.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
It's going to be a cracking game.
The Roosters have been scoring a lot of points until in recent weeks. But I think it'll be a fast start. I like the Bulldogs in this one, but it's going to be a ripper game.
Warriors Dolphins.
I like the Warriors. I think their defence is going to be too much for the Dolphins.
Yeah, okay. Manly have been super disappointing. Come up against the Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if there's dramas at Manly. It sounds like there's just starting to get a little bit of internal sort of whinging going on.
Is that a
there.
DCE issue?
Oh, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think when you're losing 4 of the last 5 they've lost, I think when you're starting to go through a spell like that, suddenly the little aches become big aches. And so I think that's just everyone's just having a bit of a bitch at the moment.
Big game with a lot of history over the last few years is Cronulla Melbourne. A lot of sticks.
Yeah, Cronulla got them last year too at Shark Park. So and they've done a lot of travel in recent weeks. They've been to Brisbane twice. They went down to where was the other game? They played another game away, and they got Melbourne there last year. Okay, so they got Melbourne at Shark Park last year, so they know how to beat Melbourne. I think they're right in the fight. Yeah, they're home this week. They've had a week in their own beds this week, which is a big thing for them because they have been travelling. I'll think of that other team road trip as soon as we get off air.
Mate, Canberra coming off a loss up against Desi's Titans, who off a good win.
I can't look at the Titans here. Yeah, I think Canberra will get their asses kicked. I think they'll be embarrassed about the way they lost on the weekend.
Yeah,
and I think that'll just refocus them.
And same for West Tigers coming up against South.
Who knows? There, look, it's hard to pick a team that's just been beaten 64-0, but we'll get an insight into the Tigers' character this week on how they respond to what happened last weekend.
Speaking of South, Sunday's chiming in has Steve Gillis talking to a former South captain, Adam Reynolds, who Chimes has managed him from when he was 16 and obviously, unceremoniously left South. So that drops at 6 a.m. on Sunday. Mate, we're going to finish with just one Ask Kenty, because I want to see you fire up for the last time for the week. So there's a Muppet called John Locke who said there should be a celebrity boxing match to accompany the Vegas round in the NRL. Kenty versus that guy at the pub, or Kenty versus the tree he swung into. Well,
mate, if you find a celebrity in that sentence there, you can have your fight, but I don't think there's a celebrity there. So, no, not for me.
Very good. Thank you very much for watching this week. Thanks for all your comments. Remember to leave your Ask Kentys below. We tried to go through this week, and there was a lot of comments complimenting everybody, but not many Ask Kentys. So we always try and get Ask Kentys in on Thursday. Kenty, enjoy your long weekend, and we'll see you back on Monday. Thanks very much.